is requiring monthly financial statements by the 15th. Tom, why don't you tell us about how important that is, and I'll also share my perspective.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. So many entrepreneurs, so many small businesses kind of managed by the checkbook. I have money in the account, so things must be okay. But the reality is that you've got to have a disciplined way to look at and examine your financial statements on a routine basis. I engage with business owners who've had businesses for years, dozens of years, sometimes, or just a few years, where I say, how frequently do you require and do you review your financial statements? And they say, oh yeah, we look at them at the end of the year when we send it off to the CPA to do our taxes. Look, a financial statement is nothing more than a history book, right? It tells you the history. It doesn't predict the future. All it does is tells you what you did. But the thing is that if you don't examine that quickly after the close of every month, then you can't make changes in your business in order to improve next month's outcome. So we tell our business owners that you really should require the financials by the 15th and look at them in detail. And that might sound like, oh gosh, how can I do that by the 15th, especially if you have a large and complex business with multiple revenue streams. But the reality is that in my last company that I sold, which actually did some e-com stuff, you might be interested to know that, Nate. But we had a very large and complex middle market business. We got our financial statements by the 8th. So our chief financial officer was producing the statements, at least a draft, by the 5th. Our GMs could take a look at it, make their adjustments, and we were producing financials by the 8th. Why? Because if I get the financial on the 8th and something isn't right, then I can make adjustments in the business very quickly so that I can change the outcome for the upcoming month. If I don't look at my financial statements, I can't really make changes in my business that are going to impact the long-term goals that I have for the business. So get the financial statements. If you don't know how to read them, get with a CPA or get with an accounting person and learn how to understand what is on your financial statements, because you're going to need them when it's time to transition your business, and they need to be crystal clear, and you need to understand your profitability. So I'm just a huge fan of getting those financial statements very early in the month.
I couldn't agree more. Some examples of clients of mine that I've helped this year. I am a huge fan that if you're doing it yourself, you outsource it, get somebody to handle it. Entrepreneurs, you need to be focusing on the sales. You need to be focusing on the revenue creation. You're focusing on the overall strategy. Don't do it yourself, and don't be afraid of hiring somebody else to do it for you. It's not terribly expensive. There's a couple of examples, and if you need help, please reach out to me. You can email me. My information is in the description below. I can give you some great suggestions, whether you're an e-commerce entrepreneur. I have some really good referrals for folks that specialize in Amazon-based businesses and doing their books. For off Amazon-based businesses, there's no excuse to not be doing this. One example I've got, company, six-figure company, in the process of selling. We didn't have financials, and I agreed to take the listing on. I thought that we could work on it through the process. And I found out later that the seller's reluctance to do it was he just didn't understand how widely available a bookkeeper and a CPA and the affordability of it. Like, he had in his mind that it was going to cost him thousands and thousands of dollars, and it's absolutely not the case. And we couldn't get it closed. Like, we literally had to put it on pause. We're working on the financials. They're going to have to go and do all that back work. It's absolutely necessary to the transaction. You could almost not sell a business without monthly P&Ls, monthly balance statements, past year's end of year P&L and balance statement. It's absolutely critical. Tom, I see you're chomping at the bit.
Yeah, good Lord. Yeah, there are so many businesses that don't do financials, and it's too easy today, right? And you can get a subscription to QuickBooks online for $50 a month or whatever, or you can outsource. There's a lot of e-commerce players now. I get pings every day from outsourced bookkeepers who do this all electronically. You give the information to them, and they can produce financial statements. But if you don't have a solid financial statement that people can understand, that a buyer can understand, then you don't have a business, right? Even though you do have a business, you got revenue, a buyer has to be able to understand those things. So for the love of everything holy, you do something, whether it's QuickBooks or outsourcing to a bookkeeper. My own story, when I started Mastery Partners, this, by the way, this is my 101st business. I have bought or sold 100 businesses in my career. And so when I started this, I knew I needed to do the financial statements, but I was reluctant because I was a solo entrepreneur at first. Now we've got partners in the business, and I really drug my feet. Didn't do it. And 6 or 8 months later, I'm coming to the end of my first year. And I'm going, crap, I got to do the financial statements. And so I ordered my QuickBooks online, and I realized, oh my gosh, I can actually hook my bank account to this. I can hook my credit cards to this. And all my expenses, all of my revenue just flowed right in. And a few click of the buttons later, I got a financial statement. And so now I understand how to read financials, and so it's very easy. But for you might want to outsource that. And there are tons and tons and tons of suppliers out there that do business just like you do online. And so go look for one. You can get them very inexpensively.
Yep. So for this client in particular, it's a 6-figure business, very, very affordable bookkeeping. I literally found somebody on Fiverr with like 500 5-star reviews. They charge $100 a month to handle, I think it's like 250 transactions. Literally no excuse. That resource was willing to go back as far as 2 years, I think, like up to like 2,000 transactions, and reconcile 2 years worth of bank statements for like $600. So, you get what you pay for sure. So there's going to be some cleanup and some overview and stuff. On the high side, I see, that sort of work costing like $2,000 to $5,000 sometimes as well. But somewhere in that $600, to $2,000 range, you can find somebody to do that if you just don't want to touch it. That is the first person that I outsource. Any new business venture that I'm involved in is my bookkeeper. Second person is the CPA. But it's absolutely critical. Getting those monthly financial statements by the 15th is also critical through the sales process, because every month the business is listed, I am re-updating and re-communicating that information to the buyer. If you're on the buy side, you're asking for that if a new month rolls by, once you have a business under contract as well, and you're in the LOI and the due diligence phase, you're checking those numbers every month. Is it going up? Are they going down? Is it staying steady? What's going on? So that piece was absolutely critical. I saw this was your number one on the other webinar that I was looking at, and absolutely understand why. Be sure to subscribe and hit the bell for notifications about new videos and interviews. And introduce yourself in the comments. Are you a buyer or a seller?